Hello and welcome to another Orioles Minor League podcast on BaltimoreBaseball.com. My name is Adam Pohl. I'm the voice of the Bowie Bay Sox, and it's great to have you with us once again this week. Today we're going to take a look at the promotion of outfielder Mike Yastrzemski and what that means to the depth of the Norfolk Tides outfield. We'll talk about Mike and we'll have the conversation with our minor league guru, Dean Jones. But first today, we got a conversation with one of the most intriguing prospects in the Orioles organization. It's been a year now since the Orioles traded for an unheralded left-handed pitcher in the lower levels of the minor leagues named Chris Lee. The left-hander since then, who was traded for international bonus slots, has been able to rise throughout the Orioles organization. His velocity has increased, his fastball command has improved, and with it, he's putting up dynamic numbers now with Double-A Bowie. So we were able to talk with Chris about his rise to the status of prospect in the Orioles organization. Welcome back to the BaltimoreBaseball.com podcast. My name is Adam Pohl, and happy to be joined today by Bowie Bay Sox starting pitcher and Orioles top prospect Chris Lee. Chris, you're having a great season. Congratulations, and thank you for joining us here today.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
It's been fun getting to know you over the last year or so with you coming to Bowie, in the middle part of last year. And at that point, you had already made some changes to your delivery since coming to the Orioles organization and had seen the velocity spike. We've heard a lot of people talk about what has been able to help you gain in velocity over the last year or so. But what in your mind was the biggest key?
I think the biggest thing that made me though stronger in velocity and stay more in the zone was staying more consistent with my mechanics, just stay fluid and just work down the mound and just focus on just one pitch at a time throwing strikes.
I know last year you talked to me a lot about how in the Astros organization they love to keep you down low and drive forward, and in working with Kenny Steenstra there and Frederick, and then of course Alan Mills up here with the Bay Sox, that you started to throw a little bit more in a way that felt more normal to you.
Yeah, it's basically just letting me be athletic and just continue to basically just hurl the ball hard as I could at the catcher. But at the same time, be fluid and don't try to do too much and don't try to compensate for something else. If something's off, just little miscues of mechanics, I can clean up one pitch at a time. And if I do that and just focus on throwing one pitch at a time, I can see my velocity increasing because I'm having more trust and being more consistent in the zone. I know I can put a little more MPHs on it if I need it, if I need to reach back and he's a little bit early.
And so far this year, you've not only had that kind of velocity, but you've also been able to spot your fastball, get ahead in the count, get early contact, get very deep into games. And I know that's something that you really strive for coming into this year. So talk to us about the positives of that, because it seems like you're getting a ton of ground balls here out of the gate.
I mainly just try to work down, and defense this year has been unbelievable. They made a lot of good plays, get me out of key situations during the game, late in the game, and my first thing on my mind when the batter steps in there is, all right, try to get him out the first three pitches. And if that doesn't happen, just keep on trying to stay low in the zone and just keep filling the zone up and letting make weak contact. If I can keep my pitches low, stay longer in the game, help the bullpen out a little bit, and let my defense work, because that's what they're there for.
And another thing in that regard is that you are somebody that doesn't have to fool the hitter. You know, there's many pitchers that will say, okay, he's thinking a fastball's coming, I need to go off speed. But your fastball, even when the opponent knows it's coming, it just seems they don't see it well, or you're able to manipulate contact. They hit the top of the ball quite often. And right now, as far as the top 15 pitchers in the league in ERA, you have the highest ground ball to fly ball out ratio.
Yeah, I mean, me and Chance go over the game plan every single game, and we just talk about it. Like, we're going to keep throwing our fastball until they show that they can hit it hard. And lately, it's been pro to my repertoire of just throwing the fastball, getting outs early, and getting ground balls. I mean, sometimes we'll throw some changeups and sliders in there to keep them offset. But me and Chance has decided we're going to keep going at them until they show us that they can hit it. So we're just working down on the count and in the zone and just trying to just keep getting ground balls.
Between your changeup and your slider, which pitch do you think needs to move forward more? And which one, maybe, I guess is a better way of putting it, are you working on more right now?
I have a good feel for it. I'm like working on just keep it more consistent, more back foot, more.
Is that your slider?
Yes, slider. Yeah. Basically as a put away. Just working on more depth to get the hitter off more, something more slower. So I'm basically working on just feel and just not going to change anything. I'm going to stay within myself because everything's working right now, but still every day after I'm out there in my program, I'm trying to just get better every day, and something needs to be fixed, and I'll do that right then and there.
You know, one thing, though, that I love about your mindset and your hunger for this game is a few years ago, the pitchers used to always say, well, I just want to keep my team in the game. But for you, whenever you've talked to me about this, you said, well, I want my team to win that game. It's something in baseball that many feel like the statistic of wins does not matter because quite often you can't control how many runs your team scores. And in the same regard, you could pitch in a game and then have your bullpen give up a lead or be in line for a loss and have your team come back. But really, when you're pitching on every fifth day, you have more input into whether your team wins or not than any other player on that field. And I can tell that for you, it's really all about winning.
Yes, I mean, I go out there and try to give up little runs as I can to some ball games, and I can get in a run support. But I know that if I do my part of letting them not score at all, that gives my team a chance to win. And overall, it's all really matters. Like an overall team win, for we can get higher in the standings and clinch a home berth for playoffs, which would be really big for us, and will just set us up for like a championship.
You know, and right now, you've got to be very proud about how the season has started in that regard, because right now, as we talk today, there will be another game tonight before this podcast airs. But right now, the Bay Sox are 6-0 in your starts, and Bowie is 10-20 in starts made by every other player. So the Bay Sox have been at their best with you on the hill, and I know you've got to take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate them because without them behind me, then a lot of runs have been scored, but they've been stopping a lot of balls for me. Like I said, they're like my back against the wall. They get my back. They're diving out there. They give it 110%, and it makes me more comfortable on the mound. Makes me be able to throw the ball in the zone, and also then make it a lot easier once they're giving so much run support. Like they're scoring so many runs for me, and it's a big old weight off my shoulders. And like everyone's, like, we have good chemistry, and we all just have the hunger to win, and I love it out there. So when I'm on the mound, just try, not only for myself, try to do it for everyone else out there on my team, because we all want to win, and I'm just keep doing my best and keep on moving forward and try to get more wins for us.
We're here with Chris Lee on the BaltimoreBaseball.com podcast, and switching paces a little bit. You're an African-American ball player. You're from Tampa, that area. Tampa has really a great history in the game of baseball in the African-American community. You're playing baseball now in an area that is a largely dominated African-American community in Prince George's County here in Bowie, Maryland. Tell us about why baseball, how it was baseball that was a sport that you got into, and and we'll take it from there, because it's really unique. There have been so many great ball players from the Tampa area.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, like my love for the game, it was usually football. And I was really good at football. You know, Pop Warner, Little League, I was always taller than everyone else, so I kind of dominated in that aspect. Just from catching the ball, playing wide receiver, and I was faster than everyone. But as I got older, about 7 or 8, like watching like King Griffey Jr. and all of them play, and Alex Rodriguez, like I always wanted to just, like, be a hitter and throw as fast as like Randy Johnson. Just wanted to be like those guys. And ever since then, I just love stepping on between those lines, and like it's like a sanctuary. Everything's just good, you know, nothing can go wrong. You can have your ups and downs because it's baseball, but when you have failure in baseball, it only makes you better. It makes you work that much harder and try to be better than everyone else. And baseball is such a competitive game. It makes me just want to keep playing it more and to strive to be the best. And we got a lot of players, like, you know, Fred McGriff went there. We got Gary Sheffield, and you got Givens with us right now in the big leagues. He's doing well up there too.
Did you ever play against Mike growing up?
Yeah, out of my 4 years, played 2 years against them, and Plant always had the upper end in the games. They're a pretty dominant team, and you know he was he was a hard throwing pitcher. Like I never got any bats against him, which is I don't know how that will go. I would say, because like I'm like a swing and miss hitter. Wasn't really the best hitter. Pitching was always my strong suit, but you had him. He was pretty good. You had Jarrett Womack. I mean, just had a pretty stacked team at Plant, and it was pretty enjoyable. Like seeing him like up there right now and doing so well after playing against him and seeing like all the potential he had in high school, and now he's like fulfilling his dream and doing good up there in the show.
When we met, you were getting ready to start your Eastern League debut in Binghamton, New York. You were sitting, in the clubhouse getting ready for that game. You explained kind of your repertoire and your style to me, and it just seemed like you were so excited. It wasn't a nervous energy, but it seemed like it was just almost an anxious enthusiasm that you had for getting to Double-A, because in the Astros organization, you really were not promoted too quickly. So this has had to be just a great whirlwind this last year. It's been a great blessing for you to be in the Orioles system.
Yeah, like my first 5 years, I was below low A, and like every year, tried my best. I was just trying to say like, okay, I'll make the Double-A, Triple-A. I would have a chance to go to the show. So that's like the first goal right there, to get to one of those two teams. And once I got traded over to High A, I just keep working my butt off every day, just trying to get better and get that promotion. And once I got to Double-A, I just wasn't like no weight off my shoulder and all that. I just knew that I had to kick it in gear more, because it's gonna be that much more harder, another obstacle I had to go through. And going out there, at first, I kind of like didn't feel like my waist or below. It was kind of like I was just standing on my hips, and I was just so anxious out there, just trying to just grip it and rip it, and just don't try to do too much and stay in the zone. And had good defense behind me and good hitters, and I seen how it was being up there in Double-A, and I was just like, okay, like, yeah, I'm good enough. Like, okay, like I do deserve this. Like, let's go. And the team welcomed me in there with open arms, and it was just exciting to be there in Double-A, and hopefully soon I can keep on moving up the ladder. And how about the Orioles?
And lastly, Chris, before we head off here today, I talked to Trey Mancini about this a few weeks ago before he went to AAA. But, a year ago when you came to the Orioles organization, you weren't a player. There's so many minor league players in the organization, but you weren't a player that people would say, oh, Chris Lee, I know who that guy is. This left-handed pitcher, he does this and this and this. Now you're on the 40-man roster. You've had articles written about you on all the major local papers, interviews on radio, and things of that nature. What is it like? How different has it been to now be a known commodity as a guy that might be the future of the Orioles roster?
It's nice to have someone know my name and have little kids come up to me. Love kids, and just to have someone that looks up to me is like really special to me, because I was the same way when I was younger to other players, like the Tampa Yankees. I used to go to their games when I was younger, and it's just nice to have my name out there. But I'm just keep working hard and just not pay attention to like all the stuff online and everything, and just worry about what I have to do between the lines every fifth day.
Let's continue on here on today's Orioles Minor League podcast here on BaltimoreBaseball.com. One of the big stories of the Orioles organization this week in the minor leagues is the promotion of Mike Yastrzemski to AAA Norfolk. Yastrzemski was one of the most dynamic players in the Orioles system in 2014. Baltimore's 14th round draft choice in 2013, Yastrzemski was the first player in the 2013 draft to reach Double-A Bowie. He was a South Atlantic League All-Star with Delmarva, and then after only 3 weeks with Advanced A Frederick, he would get the call to Bowie in the middle of July. Yastrzemski finished fairly strong with the Bay Sox in 2014, but he struggled with a thumb injury and a tough 2015, even though he was an everyday player on the first ever Bay Sox championship team. Yastrzemski has had a very strong start to this year. He has hit 6 home runs with the Bay Sox and has already gotten that call here about a month or so into the year up to AAA, where he made his debut in front of family and friends and very close to where he grew up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And what a debut it was, as Yastrzemski had a multi-hit game, and he got the big game-tying RBI triple in the 8th inning, and then scored on a 2-out 8th inning home run from Dariel Alvarez, as the Tides won Yastrzemski's debut on Monday night in Pawtucket. So now let's welcome in our minor league guru, Dean Jones Jr., once again here on our BaltimoreBaseball.com Minor League Baseball podcast. And Dean, we've had a lot of good times here talking about Chris Lee, a nice conversation, and then the promotion of Mike Yastrzemski. So there's a lot going on right now in the upper levels of the minors.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Like you said, once the moves start happening, once the promotions start coming around, it kind of freshens things up. And once we're now a month into the season, a little more than a month, so kind of shaking things up a little bit. It's always nice to see the moves.
There's a lot of injuries that have happened with infielders at AAA Norfolk this year, but I look back at it tonight. Here we are, we're right in the middle of May, and of the Bay Sox starting 9, and then their starting pitcher. So you say there's 10 guys, your lineup of 9, and then their starting pitcher on opening night. Half of them, 5 of them, are now with AAA Norfolk. And for Yastrzemski, he was a player that was just so dynamic in 2014. He had 64 extra base hits, double digits in doubles, triples, and home runs. And it's a great opportunity for him now at the AAA level because he played more than 200 games with Bowie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he was kind of stuck in a rut there a little bit at Bowie. Like you said, the 2014 season, 16 triples. That's the number that stands out to me. And then, like you said, 34 doubles, 14 home runs. But then, last year he kind of, I wouldn't say struggled a little bit, but he hit 246. Played the whole year at Bowie. This year, he started off. I think middle of April he was hitting around 120, and then. Right. Got hot, had like 6 multi-hit games there, and the average was that quickly was at 300. And with a home run Tuesday night at Norfolk, he's already exceeded the 2015 home run total. He had 6 at Bowie earlier this year, and then, like I said, that first one at Norfolk. And I think he's a guy kind of that, his story, just because of who his grandfather is, the Red Sox great Carl Yastrzemski, I'm sure that story is well documented, but just because of who he is, the Orioles fans are paying a little bit closer attention to him, and he's not on that top prospects list at Baseball America, but he's being scrutinized, and like you said, he had a very impressive 2014, and he's still young enough, and now one call away from the major leagues, so it'll be interesting to see how he finishes the rest of the year.
I think the Orioles have to be very happy with how their big league outfield has played so far this year. But it's really interesting because right now, when you look at Double and AAA, it seems like there's so much opportunity for infielders, but to reach Norfolk and get playing time. But there is such a time crunch and a position crunch as far as outfielders are considered. So for Yastrzemski to get to AAA is a big jump for him. But you think you still got Christian Walker now in the outfield. You've got Dariel Alvarez. And that doesn't even bring into the equation guys like Avery and Hose.
That's a great point. It's kind of ironic a little bit there that Christian Walker, they shifted him to the outfield this year, and that was the move. And obviously he's performed, well offensively. 8th home run Tuesday night, up there for the Tides. And it's one of those things, he's there now, but like you said, it's a crowded outfield, especially with Yastrzemski there. And Alvarez, he's hitting 2 more hits Tuesday night, hitting, near 300. I think he's hitting close to 360, 370 in the month of May. So it's one of those things, those guys are starting to hit a little bit. Norfolk's still, I think, at least 10 games under 500, but the offensive performances individually in the outfield are definitely strong.
Alvarez is a guy that swings at just about everything. I know Orioles fans have seen him. He has been a dead pull hitter in the past. There's a lot of talk that he's trying to drive the ball the other way a little bit more, trying to be maybe a bit more selective. That's easier said than done. I know that 2 nights ago, or I should say on Monday night, he hit his first home run of the year, and it went out to the opposite field at Pawtucket to right, which is, pretty unusual for him. But he's got something that Buck Showalter loves, which is he's a guy that can play some defense. He's got an incredible arm.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I think, the Orioles, they're fundamentals. Buck loves the guys that can go the other way, the guys that can hit situational and do all the right things. And Alvarez, I think that's one of the keys that will actually get him, ideally another spot, another chance in the major leagues, later this year possibly.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I know that Xavier Avery was right there to get that call up when there was all the scrutiny there as far as the last guy falling off of the 25-man roster on opening night. But if there's an injury or an opportunity in some way, shape, or form in Baltimore, there's just so many guys that could be tapped on the shoulder to go take over a corner outfield position in Norfolk that are waiting in the wings. It'll be interesting to see who would get that call.
Absolutely. I mean, the Orioles, they haven't really, knock on wood for Orioles fans, haven't really been bitten by that injury bug too much, other than obviously J.J. Hardy. But it's bound to happen. It's a 162-game season. Guys will go down. Guys will get banged up for a game here or there, and that's why the Orioles, they like to kind of stock the AA and AAA levels, both with former major league talent and other guys who are one call away that could kind of come up and contribute.
We're here talking to Dean Jones Jr., our minor league guru, here on our Orioles minor league podcast on BaltimoreBaseball.com. And Dean, our first conversation today was with a guy that's got everybody intrigued, Chris Lee. He's a hard-throwing left-handed pitcher. Somebody asked me this offseason why Lee was highly thought of in the Orioles organization, and it's pretty simple. He's the hardest-throwing pitcher possibly the Orioles had at the end of last year in the upper levels of the minors. He's left-handed, and he gets a ton of ground balls. He really checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as long as he's getting the ground balls and showing he can get hitters out, that's what the organization wants to see. I mean, it's kind of – he's never really been a big strikeout pitcher. His high, I think, was last year. He had 98 and 145 innings. Mm-hmm. This year, it's kind of, almost remarkable that he only has 13 and 37 and third, like you said, with that arm.
Yeah.
But, hey, not everyone can be Clayton Kershaw. It's just about getting the job done. And 5-0, 2.41 ERA through the first 6 games. You can't complain about that.
He is a ground ball guy, and right now he is getting a higher ratio of ground balls than any of the top pitchers in the Eastern League. And I've always liked, and we talked about it a little bit in our conversation, but he's a guy that really, it's a cliche, but everybody talks about, pitching well and keeping your team in games as a starter. But Chris Lee is a guy that always talks about, when I go out, I want my team to win the game. And right now, coming into what would be the Wednesday that this podcast is published, the Bay Sox are 6-0 in games that Lee starts, and they are 10-21 in games that Lee does not. I mean, he has been a winner for this team.
I mean, I think that it sounds like you guys got to get him out there more often. Maybe for 2 days.
It is unusual, though, to see a guy that's got that type of velocity. And I know that in reading an article today from Steve Molesky on MassivSports.com, talking to Brian Graham, the Orioles director of player development, he talked about the development of the slider to become a swing and miss pitch. And I think that that's probably that next step in the arsenal for Lee, because his fastball command has gotten a lot better. He's throwing much harder than he was when he came over from the Astros a year ago. So he is continually improving, and maybe if he can get that dynamic secondary pitch, then he can be more of a guy that can get those punch-outs.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point there, Adam. I mean, fans, you kind of see the results. You kind of see what's going on in the box scores, and obviously if you go to games, you see, hey, that guy's, pitching, and, he retired 10 in a row, or, hey, that guy, he's been hit hard. He's supposed to be a top prospect. What's going on? But you don't really know what the organization has the players working on. And like you said, that pitch, kind of an out pitch, the secondary offerings, the Orioles kind of want those guys to focus on that, because, hey, at the end of the day, that's what you want. That's what you want and need to excel and move up higher in the ladder.
Well, Dean, thanks once again, man. It's always great talking, and we'll look forward to doing it again next week.
Absolutely. Same time, same place.
So that's going to do it for us here today. Want to say a big thank you to our guest, Bowie Bay Sox left-handed pitcher Chris Lee, and our minor league guru, Dean Jones Jr. My name is Adam Pohl. We'll see you next week. This has been the Orioles Minor League Podcast on BaltimoreBaseball.com.